Welcome to Department of English, General Linguistic course, and our lecture is Discourse Analysis, Chapter 11 of George Jules, The Study of Language. Discourse Analysis. If we try to give a proper definition to this term, we will find discourse analysis is the analysis of meaning beyond the level of a sentence. It is not the meaning or the analysis of meaning of any given sentence. Rather, it is the analysis of group of sentences. The analysis of meaning of group of sentences. It is not only that, it is the language behaviors in which they are linked to the social practices, the social situations, and the physical situations and context. It could be a system of thought. It could be the analysis of the systemized thoughts in mind. So all in all, discourse analysis can be defined as the analysis of meaning beyond the level of the sentence. Sometimes discourse analysis or discourse in general is confused with other terms. Some speakers might say, what is the relationship between discourse and semantics? Discourse and lexicon, discourse and pragmatics. When we study semantics separately, we can differentiate between semantics and other fields of meaning, like pragmatics and lexical analysis. When we study pragmatics, we can distinguish between semantics and pragmatics. When we study lexical analysis, we can distinguish between pragmatics, semantics, and lexical. However, when we study a discourse analysis, the matter is different. It seems that all the borders are blurry. Well, they're not blurry anymore if we take a look at this figure. We'll find discourse analysis can be semantics or semantic analysis, and can be pragmatic analysis. So when we deal with context or linguistic context or lexical context, words surrounding any given word, then discourse analysis means semantic analysis. And at the same time, when we deal with physical context or situational context, to be precisely, situational context, then here we deal with pragmatics. We analyze the pragmatic meaning of any given text, which is beyond the sentence, of course. So when we have context or linguistic context, then discourse analysis means semantic analysis. When we have situational or physical context, then discourse analysis means pragmatic analysis. Well, discourse has some basic ideas. Discourse in general means language, whether written or spoken. Written or spoken. Now, the written language and the spoken language sometimes are referred to as text. When we have any piece of writing, we can refer to it as a text. And the analysis of this text is going to be what is called discourse analysis, depending either on semantics or pragmatics. Either on the context or the physical or situational context. Now, The analysis of discourse is typically concerned with the study of language in text and conversation. Text analysis, or writing structure of a discourse in speech events, cohesion, coherence, and speech events. So three aspects of the text analysis in terms of writing pieces can be dealt with when analyzing the discourse. They are cohesion, coherence, and speech events. In terms of conversation analysis, they are turn-taking, the Cooperative Principle or CP, background knowledge, Hedges, Implicatures, and schemas and scripts. Let's start with them one by one. First, cohesion. What is cohesion? Cohesion is the grammatical and or lexical relationships between the different elements of a text. It connects the text in terms of grammar and lexicon, in terms of grammatical functions, and the meanings to make a sound, meaningful text. Now, if you take this example and see what's called cohesive ties in this text. My father once bought a Lincoln convertible. He did it by saving every penny he could. That car would be worth a fortune nowadays. However, he sold it to help pay for my college education. Sometimes I think I'd rather have the convertible. Now, if we take a look in terms of reference, how to refer to things, we will see that the cohesive ties or cohesive connectors, what connects a text, are father, and the cohesive ties or the reference to this referent, he. A Lincoln convertible, that car, it, or the convertible. Now, if we take another level of cohesion, which is the cohesive ties in semantics, we will find money, the lexeme money, having bought, saving, penny, worth, fortune, sold, pay. These are called the cohesive ties, the semantic cohesive ties of the word money. Now, the semantic cohesive ties of the word time are once, nowadays, sometimes. So we cannot insert, for example, in the time cohesive ties, 3 days ago, or next Monday, or next month. Here we will have incohesive text. Now, in terms of the grammatical cohesive ties, we will find tense, bought, did, could, would, sold, and other cohesive devices for textual relation, like however. It connects the elements of the text. However, furthermore, moreover, nevertheless, hence, and so on and so forth. So cohesion, so there are so many cohesive devices exist, but a text is very hard to interpret. Here we do not see any coherence, but there is cohesion. Now, what do we mean by coherence? Coherence is the relationships which link the meanings of utterances in a discourse or of the sentences in a text. We can define it so simply as the chronological order or logical order, the logic order of meaning, or the chronological order of meaning. Now let's take this example. A conversation between a female and male. Her, that's the telephone. Him, I'm in the bath. Her, okay. Well, there are certainly no cohesive ties within this fragment of discourse. Here we see coherence, but no cohesion. How? Well, if we go through this conversation and through the elements of conversational analysis, which we will talk about them in a minute, we will find that that's the telephone, and him saying, I am in the bath, meaning I cannot answer the telephone because I am in the bath, which is the implicature, and we will talk about this in a minute. So that's why there is coherence. There is a logic in this answer. Otherwise, on the surface structure, on the surface level, we cannot find any kind of cohesion between that's the telephone and I'm in the bath. Okay? Well, there is some kind of difference or distinguishing points between cohesion and coherence. Simply speaking, cohesion helps create coherence, but coherence is so easy to interpret. Cohesion does not entail coherence. Sometimes we can find a text with well grammatically formed structures, but with no cohesive at all. No coherence at all. So coherence can be made with or without cohesive ties or devices. It's just a matter of logic. When I say something and it has a logic, then it's okay. There's no need to make it cohesion, precise cohesion anymore. This is number 2. Number 3, speech events. Speech events are defined as the events where language is involved. They include interactions such as conversation at a party or ordering a meal or so on. Any speech event comprises several components. They are speech genre, which can be either debate, lecture, interview, game, daily routine, and so on. 2, interlocutors, speakers, hearers, addressers, addressee, listener, audience, and so on. 3, the social distance, the interpersonal status, age, gender, power, social distance, and so on. 4, topic of a conversation. And 5, setting, the where, about, and the time of a conversation. And whether this conversation occurs in a particular frame, whether culturally or specific factors frame. Well, cohesion, coherence, and speech events are very vital in terms of analyzing any written or spoken text or discourse. Now let's move to conversational analysis. The basic structure of a conversation is composed of turns or roles, which mean that the speaker and the hearer take turns in talking, or roles. once the speaker is a speaker and or a listener or hearer. So this is called roles or turns. One person speaks at one time and the other listens, and then they switch roles. As in this short piece of conversation, A, hello, then listens, and then B is a speaker, hi. Then A, how are you, as a speaker, and then pauses for a short time to be a listener, and B, who was a listener, becomes a speaker, fine, and so on and so forth. Sometimes in turn taking there is a kind of overlap. The speaker and the hearer, or two interlocutors to be precise, two interlocutors take the same role. For example, they both take the role of a speaker, and rarely they take both. They take the role of the hearer. So when taking the role of the speaker, there will be definitely an overlap. And here we should try to repair this overlap. What to do to repair this overlap? These are very important points. We refer to what is called turn relevance place, TRP. Number one, the end of a phrase. We look after the end of a phrase, a clause, or a sentence. We should be alert to this point where the speaker ends his or her phrase, clause, or sentence. Number two, the falling intonation. Most of our statements, questions, or the connected speech ends with fall intonation. So falling intonation means that the turn is about to end. And three, the perceivable pause, usually 0.2 seconds. And if we took a look at this conversation between a mom and her son. Mom, hello son. Son, oh hello, how are you? Mom, very well, and you? Son, thanks. Mom, that's good. And there is a pause, which is half a second, and then there is no turn taken by the son. So that's why the mom took the turn and start or initiated another topic, which is we had territorial rain today. A new topic initiated, of course. Okay. Sometimes we need to keep on the turn and imply that either that we are speaking, we're still speaking now, that the current speaker has more to say, is to use pause fillers. Here we use these fillers to indicate to the listener that we are still talking, we are still in the turn. These fillers actually are like various in the various languages. However, in English we can say they're like are, you know, like. For example, I say, I mean, his later films were much more, really more in the romantic style, and that was more what he was, you know, beast at doing, and so on. So these are called fillers, and their job is to keep the turn at the speaker. Now let's move to Cooperative Principle, which is the second the second aspect of conversational analysis. In this cooperative principle, interlocutors are cooperative in constructing a conversation. After Grecian maxims, or after Paul Grice, thanks to Paul Grice, who first introduced cooperative principle maxims in 1970s, then any kind of conversation should have the cooperative principle among the interlocutors. And this cooperative principle consists of 4 maxims to make a conversation. Number 1, the quantity maxim, which means that we should make our contribution as informative as is required, no more, no less information. 2, the quality maxim, which is do not say what you believe to be false or for which you lack adequate evidence. We should not lie, and we should not interpret things in our own ways. For example, if you see something happen and somebody asks you what happened, you must tell what really happened, what you already saw. You do not have to say what you believe that you saw. You do not say things from your own, in addition to not to lie, of course. The third maxim is be relevant. Do not, as you say, do not go around the bushes. To the point, clear and concise. Say things that are relative to the topic of the conversation. Otherwise, you will not be cooperative. And finally, the manner maxim, which says, be clear, brief, and orderly. You must be clear. There should not be any kind of obscurity or more than needed information. And they should be ordered or arranged in order. So if you say, if you're telling a story, you do not have to start making flashbacks. Make it clear. Make it arranged in order. That's what is called cooperative principle. Now let's take this example. During a lunch break, one woman asks another how she likes the sandwich she is eating and receives the following answer: "Oh, a sandwich is a sandwich." So in logical terms, this reply appears to have no communicative value since it states something obvious and doesn't seem to be informative at all. But if the woman is being cooperative and adhering to the quantity maxim about being as informative as is required, then the listener must assume that her friend is communicating something else. So given the opportunity to evaluate the sandwich, her friend has responded without any explicit evaluation, thereby implying that she has no opinion, good or bad, to express. That's her friend has essentially communicated that the sandwich isn't worth talking about. So here, sometimes we violate the cooperative principle. In the first place, we see or we find no cooperative conversation at all, because there is no commitment to one or more of these four maxims of conversation or of the CP, Cooperative Principle. However, this is in the semantic level. It is not in the pragmatic level. We still have the pragmatic level to see whether we are committing to the Cooperative Principle or not. So going to the pragmatic level and testing such an utterance, sandwich is a sandwich, with the context that the sandwich is as usual and there is no need to talk about it because it is not important as we think, then there will be the pragmatic meaning of this utterance of the what is called implicature, and then there will be cooperative conversation. There will be a relative maxim, there will be a quantity maxim, quality maxim, and clear maxim, and manner maxim. Sometimes we have what is called hedges. Hedges are utterances, words, phrases, or sentences using to indicate that we are not really sure what we are saying, that we are wrong of what we are saying, that we might be wrong of what we are saying. And all these things are just to make polite language, to be polite in terms of we can use sort of or kind of as hedges in the accuracy of our statements as in the descriptions, such as his hair was kind of long, the book cover is sort of yellow rather than it is yellow. So these sort of or kind of and so many other things are called hedges. They're used for pragmatic purposes, they're used for politeness purposes, for implicature, face-saving acts sometimes, and so on and so forth. Implicature, as we just said, is an additional meaning conveyed by a speaker adhering to the cooperative principle. If we take this example, Carol, are you coming to the party tonight? Lara, I've got an exam tomorrow. Here, Lara's statement is not an answer to Carol's question. There is no cooperation at all in this conversation. However, Lara doesn't say yes or no, but Carol will immediately interpret that the answer means no. It seems to depend at least partially on the assumption that Lara is being relevant and informative, adhering to the maxims of CP through the context of situation. Background knowledge is information that is not in a text but used from the memory by a reader to understand the text or to make it with the situation to understand the text. And if you take a look at this example, we will find that John here, John is somebody whom for the reader cannot understand unless has a background knowledge about John. Otherwise, we cannot understand what John works in the school. Although there is the last sentence, after all, it is not a normal part of a janitor's duties. Okay? And finally, we'll have schema and script. Schema is a conventional knowledge which exists in memory. If you hear somebody describe what happened during a visit to a supermarket, you don't have to be told what is normally found in a supermarket because you have already got the schema of this place. food displayed on shelves arranged in aisles, shopping charts, and so on and so forth. Sometimes there is what's called script. Is essentially a dynamic schema in which conventional actions take place. For example, trying not to be out of the office for long. Susie went into the nearest place, sat down, and ordered an avocado sandwich. It was quite crowded, but the service was fast, so she left a good tip. This is one example of the script. Another example is that taking a train, traveling on an airplane, eating at a restaurant, talking to somebody on the phone. This is another script. It's just like the scenario. However, here we use language in these chains of actions. That's all for Discourse Analysis, Chapter 11 of George Jules, the study of language. And one more thing is that questions are so important. Thank you for attention. That's all for me, and have a good time.